Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Resilient Advisor Show. My name is Jay Coulter, and on this episode, I'm going to interview Kevin Lozer, and we're going to talk about the industry-changing Holistiplan product, but more importantly, we're going to talk about the importance of having tax planning services in your value proposition as a financial advisor. I first learned about the Holistiplan offering at the XYPN conference, when we could go to conferences, back in 2019. You guys won the FinTech offering. I think Altruist was in the same class that you were at that particular conference. And I thought, man, that's incredible. But I got to be honest with you, just because the applications of my business have not gone through it. So I'm excited for this interview. Kevin, I appreciate you taking the time. Would you mind, as we get started, tell listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself, your background, and the start of the company?
Sure. And thanks for having me on, Jay. Really appreciate it. So my personal background, I started actually outside of financial planning. I spent a decade or so in corporate finance, then made a switch in my early 30s to financial planning. Started as a part-time employee with a solo advisor, worked my way up to partner in that, and helped run that firm for about a decade or so, and then left that firm, started my small solo RIA, and quickly helped Roger launch Holistiplan. That's my quick career background.
That kind of sounds like the path that somebody would go on that would want to develop a product like this. So and we'll get into the details, but what was the impetus for you and your partner to develop this?
Yeah, we wanted to help advisors scale financial planning. Roger was running a practice in Texas. I was running a practice here in Virginia. We recognized that we couldn't serve all the clients that we wanted to serve with the tools that we had available to us. And Roger and I talked for many years about scaling financial planning. How can you reach more clients? How could advisors reach more clients? And do it still efficiently? Because there's lots of talk in the industry about how financial planning is very hard to scale. So that was part of the impetus of starting the tax planning software. We recognized that it was a need for us personally in our respective firms. Talking to peers and friends in the industry, we realized it was a need for them too. So Roger and I said, let's try this. And that was the start.
So the ease of use of your system is fantastic. But before we even take a look at how easy it is to use, let's talk about why advisors don't do tax planning. And I'm going to set the question through this framework. So most advisors in this industry are Gen X like myself or older. It's just the mathematics or the demographics of the industry. And it was beat into our heads when we got our starts in wirehouses, cold calling, that you don't talk about taxes. Even as people started to build out their credentials and picked up the CFP or other financial planning credentials, it was still the general dogma that you don't talk about taxes. So Kevin, what's holding advisors back today now, unless you're inside of a wirehouse where you can talk about them?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. Tax planning is hard to do. It takes a lot of time. I think a lot of advisors still don't feel as if they don't have their confidence level in that they have the knowledge to do tax planning. And again, it just takes a lot of time. So even the folks that aren't in a wirehouse setting where they're told not to do tax planning, if you're running a firm, you've got to get educated on it. You need to have the time to get educated on it and the time to then deliver that tax planning service to your clients. So I think it's a lot of it's intimidation, maybe. And a lot of it is also the tools haven't been there over the years in order to do tax planning efficiently and profitably for all your clients.
Yeah, it's definitely a confidence thing with the advisors that I have spent time with, because there's a lot to know. In fact, what are your thoughts around traditional financial planning software? And let's not name names, and the tax abilities that they have inside of those programs to deliver tax advice.
Yeah, I think they do a good job at like the 20,000, 30,000 foot view. Those financial planning softwares, I view them as strategic financial planning software. You're going to use those to tell your clients, are you going to run out of money? Can you achieve all your goals? What's cash flow look like in 20, 30 years from now? And at that level, because you're not going to get really granular for 20 or 30 years from now anyway, broad tax assumptions are good. Where we come in, where Holistiplan comes in, is we're more of a tactical financial planning tool, a tax planning tool in this case, where we're going to allow the advisor to say, what can I do this year and next year and maybe the year after that helps my clients optimize their tax situation to achieve that financial planning objectives that they have in the more strategic financial planning software. So we get a little, I guess, down to the ground, when advisors are using our software.
Yes, you're definitely in the weeds. And I really appreciate that framework of strategic versus tactical when looking at the tax applications. So why don't we look at what an output looks like from your software? What we don't have the ability to do is demo how quick this is produced. Do you want to speak to that while I go and pull up an example of an output from your software?
Sure. Yes. So the whole process starts with you, the advisor, uploading a PDF tax return from your client. And literally in less than 30 seconds, the software reads that tax return in, doesn't matter if it's 20 pages or 200 pages, finds the information we need to find from a planning perspective to generate the report that you just pulled up, and then also populate a scenario analysis screen that really cuts down the data entry time for advisors. So we do weekly demos. It's pretty much consistently 22 to 27 seconds that this report and the scenario analysis screen is generated when you upload a PDF document.
Yes, significantly cuts down the data upload time. It couldn't be more of an understatement. So tell me about data continuity with this, errors, and what type of process the advisor needs to have to make sure the data got into it correctly before they start utilizing the report.
Yeah, all they need to do is upload the tax return. So they go on to the household screen, they click a button to upload the tax return. They confirm that it's the household they want to upload it to. They select whether it's a 2018, 2019, or 2020 tax return. We actually now are ready for 2020 tax returns. And then they click an upload button. So they're not doing any data entry. They're not doing any work really except uploading the return to get this deliverable.
Excellent. Let's go through a small role play. I'm a financial advisor. I've signed up for your service. I've uploaded the information and it's just produced this Jane Doe and John Doe analysis. What do I do with it?
Yeah. So you start by looking at some of those key figures. That's going to give you a summary of what the client's tax situation, some numbers that are on the tax return, but might take you a few minutes to find, like the taxable income and deductions and things like that. And then as you scroll over to the right under the key figures, we're providing some numbers that we need from a planning perspective, but aren't on the tax return anywhere. Things like marginal rate, effective rate, what the safe harbor amount's going to be. So it gives you kind of a quick summary of the client situation. Then as you scroll down, we show what marginal bracket they're in for both ordinary income and capital gains. One of the biggest time savers of the report itself is there to the right, which is the modified adjusted gross income tier section. Believe it or not, there are a handful of different formulas for MAGI. You start with AGI. This is a number, again, that's not on the tax return anywhere. You got to calculate it as an advisor. But it's one of the most important numbers we need to know in our client situation for tax reasons, because you can see down the right there all the various planning opportunities or phase outs or thresholds that we need to know from an advisor standpoint. They're all listed there for you. So we've done the math. We've told you whether your client is over, under, or in any one of those phase outs. So you can have that conversation with the client. If they happen to be under any of these or in a phase out, hey, you could do a Roth IRA contribution, or hey, we got to be worried about net investment income tax up there at the top.
Excellent. So this is an example of a high net worth household. So for our viewers, and my apologies to podcast listeners, because I know you don't have the advantage of seeing what this looks like. But if you want to see some examples, please head on over to holistiplan.com. So the other example I'm going to pull up is a household with about $120,000 in income. Could you share, while I pull this up, some of the best practices for people who use your software when you're dealing with the non-high net worth households?
Sure. That's where you're really looking at that MAGI section and seeing if they're under any planning opportunity thresholds to maybe take advantage of those. You're maybe taking a look at the tax bracket information, scrolling down a little bit, especially the capital gains section. Maybe they're able to take some long-term capital gains at 0% tax rate, which is always a great opportunity for clients to be able to harvest gains and pay zero taxes on those gains. And then there's other sections down at the bottom of the report. There are all kinds of planning opportunities. So not only are we gathering the data from the tax return and summarizing it, but we're actually analyzing that data, comparing it to benchmarks, comparing it to other numbers in the tax return to identify potential planning opportunities for that advisor to review with their clients. So you don't even, as an advisor, need to look at those various sections that you showed there at the top of the report to be able to identify the planning opportunities. We're really, in essence, almost spoon feeding those planning opportunities to you in text at the bottom of the report.
Yeah, they're definitely spoon-fed. It's a very comprehensive report that makes it easy. What are the marketing opportunities for financial advisors and RIAs and best practices that you've seen out there leveraging this tool?
Yeah, that's a good question. When Roger and I set out to build this, we really, at the beginning, and when we were working with our peers and beta testers, we really viewed this as a tool to help you do tax planning for your existing clients. As we've continued to grow, and we're now over 1,500 subscribing firms on the platform from just within about a year and a half, what we've learned from our subscriber base is a lot of folks are using this for business development and marketing opportunities, because now they can get that tax return from a prospect and they can quickly generate this report, again, within seconds potentially, and then show their prospect, hey, look, I've reviewed your tax return. Here are some opportunities we can do from the tax planning side of things that maybe that advisor down the street is not doing. You mentioned at the beginning, for example, a lot of advisors are still a little leery of doing tax planning. So this can really be a differentiator when you're going head-to-head or head-to-head against some advisors in your market or outside your market that maybe aren't spending the time doing this level of tax planning. It sets you apart in that prospect's eyes. So we have plenty of subscribers that are doing this as a prospecting tool, really, as much as doing it for their individual clients that they have on board.
Oh, yeah. I could see lots of opportunities for prospecting and differentiation using this tool in your marketplace. I would think also with existing clients, the fact that you could show them this report and just think of the referrals that you could do and ask for after you've generated, this report from Holistiplan.
Yeah, that's a great point. One of the things in my previous firm, one of the things we struggled with was providing deliverables. That kind of older concept maybe of being able to provide something that the client walks out of their office with, that they may leave on the counter, on the refrigerator or something, or at least remind them when they're talking to friends that, oh yeah, my advisor provided us this really neat 2-page summary of our tax return with planning opportunities. I had never talked about tax planning with my advisor before. Figured that was just for me to figure out on my own or for the CPA to talk to me about. But it's certainly something that I missed when I was running a practice that we weren't really producing at that time.
Yeah, like I like to say on social media, real advisors look for tax alpha. That's where you actually find alpha. All right, so I was doing some prep for this interview, and I came across an article on the T3 site that talked about your tax prep letter and the new rollout for it. Could you speak a little bit about what that is and how it's new to the platform?
Yeah, sure. So we just launched that about a week or so ago for our premium subscribers. And the concept behind that is all the tax planning you do, you could create awesome opportunities for your clients and get them all done before December 31st. Really do a great job on the tax planning side. But if that doesn't get communicated properly to either the CPA or the client forgets to document it correctly in the prep process of preparing your tax return, then that great opportunity goes by the wayside. So what we wanted to do, again, to help advisors streamline their lives is allow them to identify the planning opportunities they've identified for their clients throughout the year, and then produce a tax prep letter that they can send to their client and or their client's CPA proactively now, before taxes are prepared by those folks, before the April 15th deadline, to make sure the tax return gets done correctly the first time, versus finding out, for example, that qualified charitable distribution that you had to your client do in 2020 didn't get reported properly on the tax return, and therefore they didn't take advantage of that opportunity. Or if they contribute to an HSA, if that doesn't get into the tax return, you lose that tax advantage of that opportunity. So this is a chance for advisors to really quickly, the tax prep letter process, we know lots of advisors that were doing it, a lot that weren't. For those that were doing it, it was like a several week project for them to do it if they had several hundred clients. This is now something you can do for each one of your clients in a few clicks of a button that produces a nice deliverable for your client, for them to acknowledge what you're doing for them, and also to tell their friends about the types of service, white glove service you're providing to them on the tax planning side.
Yeah. And Kevin, going back to marketing, what a great tool to go and reach out to the advisor or the CPA community and show how you could differentiate yourself as it relates to serving clients as a financial advisor by leveraging this tool.
Right. Yeah. These are all tools for your existing clients and for your prospective clients over the years. It's really a big opportunity, we feel, for advisors to grow their practice and serve their growing practice efficiently, right? Because that's going back to the scaling story. It's historically, as you added a lot more clients, it meant you had to add a whole lot more staff too to service those clients. We're trying to come up with ways to scale the business a little bit better for advisors and allow them to serve all their clients this way, instead of having to serve half of their clients this way because of capacity issues.
Awesome. So Kevin, this show, whether it's the audio, video, or clips afterwards, gets in front of thousands of advisors. I know this is actually going to be something new to a lot of them. Tell listeners and viewers how they could learn more about Holistiplan and what their client experience would be should they decide to go through the demo period with you guys.
Yeah, sure. So holistiplan.com, Jay's got it up on the screen. That's the best way to learn about our software. You can also email info@holistiplan.com to learn more. The best way to learn the software is to do our free 7-day free trial. So we allow anybody to sign up. You get to upload 3 tax returns of your own. So it can be client tax returns. It could be your own tax return. It can be politicians post their tax returns out on their political website. So we've seen plenty of those come through. In fact, we use one of those for demo purposes sometimes. So you can upload a return, pick 3 different types of client situations so you can see the 3 different types of outputs from that tax report. We don't limit what you can use in that free trial. So you can use the scenario analysis screen and that's where you do the forward-looking projections for 2021 and beyond. So you get to play around with 3 different client situations for free. You've got 7 days to try it out. I certainly learned as an advisor over time, I didn't really know all that the software that I was purchasing can do until you start really using it. So one of the things we wanted to do from the very beginning is allow people to use it for free so that they can see what it can do for them and they can make their decision from there.
Excellent. Kevin, we're up against our time. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some ideas, not only just about your software, but how advisors can use tax planning in their practice to differentiate themselves.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate the time.